A reading from the book of Leviticus. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "If someone has on his skin a scab or pustule or blotch, which appears to be the sore of leprosy, he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of the priests among his descendants. If the man is leprous and unclean, the priest shall declare him unclean by reason of the sore on his head. The one who bears the sore of leprosy shall keep his garments rent and his head bare, and shall muffle his beard. He shall shout out, 'Unclean, unclean.' As long as the sore is on him, he shall declare himself unclean. Since he is in fact unclean, he shall dwell apart, making his abode outside the camp." The word of the Lord.
I turn to you, Lord, in time of trouble, and you fill me with the joy of salvation. I turn to you, Lord, in time of trouble, and you fill me with the joy of salvation. Blessed is he whose fault is taken away, whose sin is covered. Blessed the man to whom the Lord imputes not guilt, in whose spirit there is no guile. I turn to you, Lord, in time of trouble, and you fill me with the joy of salvation. Then I acknowledged my sin to you, my guilt I covered not. I said, I confess my faults to the Lord, and you took away the guilt of my sin. I turn to you, Lord, in time of trouble, and you fill me with the joy of salvation. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, you just. Exalt all you upright of heart. I turn to you, Lord, in time of trouble, and you fill me with the joy of salvation.
A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do everything for the glory of God. Avoid giving offense, whether to the Jews or Greeks or the Church of God. Just as I try to please everyone in every way, not seeking my own benefit, but that of the many, that they may be saved. Be imitators of me as I am of Christ. The word of the Lord.
great prophet has arisen in our midst. God has visited his people. Alleluia. Alleluia.
Alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. A leper came to Jesus and kneeling down begged him and said, "If you wish, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand, touched him, and said to him, "I do will it. Be made clean." The leprosy left him immediately, and he was made clean. Then, warning him sternly, he dismissed him at once. He said to him, "See that you tell no one anything, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them." The man went away and began to publicize the whole matter. He spread the report abroad so that it was impossible for Jesus to enter a town openly. He remained outside in deserted places, and people kept coming to him from everywhere. The Gospel of the Lord. There's a text message I received this morning. It said, "To those who have a date, happy Valentine's. To those who don't, have a good weekend." Just want to let you know that I am having a good weekend. But whether you have a date or not, happy Valentine's. Thank you. In our gospel, we see Jesus reaching out to a leper, touching him, and eventually healing him. Most of us probably think that lepers are no longer existent in our days. We don't hear about them. We don't really see any of them. Like this priest who started his homily, he has a group of students. "Has any of you seen a leper?" And one of them said, "Yes." "Where?" "At the zoo." She was thinking about a leopard. In our first reading, we see that leprosy was considered a highly contagious disease. So people who had leprosy were forced to live outside the community, outside the camps. They were never allowed to go near people. And whenever people who were not aware of their presence would go near them, the lepers would have to ring a bell or to shout, "Unclean, unclean," to signal those people to go away. That's the stigma that they had to carry with them. People even believe that their condition was a punishment from God because of some horrible sins in their past. And of course, if people would ever be close to them, much more touch them, those people would be considered impure or unclean as well. And nobody wanted, of course, to be considered unclean. So people avoided them. People shunned them. They were outcasts. In our world, in our day, or in this day and age, yes, we don't hear much about lepers anymore. But it doesn't mean that they're no longer around. Lepers are still very much in our midst. Only that now they go by different names or by different appearances. People we shun, people we avoid, people we look down to. These are the lepers of today. People we'd have nothing to do with. People we consider second class maybe because of race or religion or culture or social status. People we avoid for personal or social or moral reasons. These are the lepers of today. Blessed Mother Teresa, who, as we know, dedicated her whole life in serving the poor, in serving the outcasts, said this about lepers. The heaviest burden for them, the biggest struggle that they go through is not their disease. The heaviest burden that they have is the lack of love. The feeling of being unwanted. That's the greatest pain that lepers had to go through. When Jesus reached out to the leper in our gospel and touched him, it meant much more than a physical touch. Now, Jesus did not only restore that person to health. Jesus did not only restore that person back to his family, to his community. There's something much more. Jesus showed that he cared. Isn't that something that we all long for? For someone who would care for us. Jesus gave that person a new life. That's what Jesus does. Only if we say to him, Lord, if you wish, come to me, make me clean. I came to give life. Not just life, but life in abundance. When Jesus gives, when Jesus reaches out to us, it's always in abundance. Today, Jesus invites us to look into our hearts and ask ourselves, who are the lepers in my life? Who are the people that I shun or avoid? People I look down to? And Jesus invites us to reach out to them. I'd like you to just think of one particular person right now. One person in your life that you are unkind to. And think of one concrete, loving, and caring thing you can do to that person. I'm not saying invite that person over for dinner right away, or to have that person as your BFF. But think of one concrete, loving, caring thing that you can do to that person. Our job is not to condemn or criticize or put people down. There's already enough of that in our world. Our job as God's people is to bless, to pray for people, to lift up the fallen, to release that goodness within us, to pour in that healing oil, that healing touch, that healing compassion of God wherever we go. Jesus came to give us life. Not just any kind of life, but life in abundance. And He's counting on all of us to make that happen.